Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye Show.
Maybe Mueller's witnesses, I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and the hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach pit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law. Would be follow Hillary's, lead. Not really kidding, bad advice. And I said, if we're...
What Annie was doing there was what a lot of talk show hosts do. Hannity was taking a situation in which was reality, and that would have been, of course, Hillary Clinton and her phones. Remember, she started off with just one phone, and then had multiple devices, and then they literally did take a hammer to it, and they did basically acid wash the drives. And he mentioned maybe if you're in trouble, that might be something you want to do. Call it the Hillary method. The reaction from the mainstream media will absolutely blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. And why not? It's Friday. Ta-da-da-da-da, right? Big League Politics, baby. I'm Bill LuMaye. It is June 7th, 2018. Number 3 on our list of things to talk about today is an underground bunker. We told you about this last week, may have been a week ago, and it was kind of a creepy place, no doubt, where you had the police saying this was just a homeless encampment, but you have a veterans group whose job really is to find homeless veterans, those who have also been involved in the sex slave and human trafficking. And they say it's something completely different. Well, there's a development, and it's a rather big development, and we'll update you on that today. The authorization of war, pretty simple really when it comes to the United States Congress. We haven't really had a constitutional authorization of war since World War II, which is a shame because it would have kept us out of a lot of engagements. We're working on an authorization that was voted on by Congress back in 2001 after 9/11. It needs to be updated a little bit. You see, the concept here was that the Congress, the people of the United States, would have an opportunity to vote on whether or not we should go to war. Well, as you know, or if you don't know, President Eisenhower warned us of the military complex, and that's what we have. We have perpetual war now. Now they're talking about rewriting the legislation. Rand Paul has an excellent point. You'll hear it, and you need to get on board and back this senator because he seems to be the only rational one in Washington these days. And surprise! The Department of Justice, the IG report, hooey, it's Friday, my mouth can't wait to get to the weekend, has been postponed again. Another delay. This time, though, we have an actual hard date of June 14th, and that will be the date that the report will actually be unveiled. But, there's so many questions about the IG report. Even whether or not it's going to be a legitimate report, it's going to be an accurate report. Right now, the IG finished its report, and it's in the hand of Rosenstein, who's basically scratching out things on it. What will we get to see? Will it be in its entirety? Will there be questions asked? Will there be answers? Well, let's start off with at least the announcement that they are planning to finally release this long-awaited report.
Just after midnight, a senior Justice Department official told reporters that DOJ would offer congressional leadership, known as the Gang of Eight, another briefing and access to FBI confidential source records Monday or Tuesday next week. Requested by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, working alongside Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy, the records are now subject to a congressional subpoena. They are expected to shed more light on allegations an FBI confidential source contacted Trump campaign aides in the early stages of the Russia case. Multiple congressional sources told Fox the documents were promised for this morning, but the Justice Department backed out.
See, now, this is a little different than the IG report, although it's all part of it. This is documents that they've been asking for from the Department of Justice and the FBI forever, and they were promised this morning, Friday morning. Of course, they, as they do, released a press release stating that they were not going to do that at, well, a little after 12 midnight. As you know, many congressmen and senators are up way after midnight, and they didn't even know about it. They actually went to go pick up the documents and found out then that, sorry, we're not going to be able to give that to you. You see, this is an interesting balancing act that is taking place right before your eyes. You have what is the IG report on Hillary Clinton's emails. You also have the Russian collusion investigation. The two are married. They're really kind of inseparable on a lot of different levels. In addition to that, you have the justification for the informant / spy into the Trump campaign, and that's the documents that you just heard them talking about there, and the witnesses surrounding the rationale for even having that, and that hasn't been forthcoming. In fact, the Department of Justice, Rosenstein, Sessions, who's recused himself, and I'm not sure what he's doing nowadays, and the FBI has been outrageously out of step with providing information to the people's house, primarily because they have to cover their butt on a number of different fronts. They have to cover the obvious fix for Hillary, but they can't just cover that. They also have to cover what is a complete fraud and fake of an investigation with Mueller. Does that make any sense? Well, maybe Sarah Carter can help us understand this a little clearer. Here's what she had to say.
Absolutely. I mean, the DOJ failed to mention that when they issued a press release last night, Sean, after midnight, stating that they would turn over documents next week, or at least allow Congress to review documents next week, either Monday or Tuesday, and ask more questions about the information that they had requested on April 24th, which was a specific documentation by the House Intelligence Committee that would basically shed light on the entire Russia investigation. It's these documents that the DOJ and the FBI are refusing to turn over to lawmakers. And this is significant. They had battled with them on May 24th. Remember that meeting that they had where the DOJ and FBI were supposed to share documents with Nunes and Representative Trey Gowdy and others, and they did not. They, in fact, told them that they would not share those documents with investigators on their committee. So this has been a back and forth battle. They refused to turn them over this morning, instead issuing a press release late last night that nobody was aware of except for the reporters, but the congressional members were left in the dark. They headed to Capitol Hill. They were waiting for the documents, and once again, they weren't there.
The truth. Only a college-educated Democrat would trust the FBI at this point. In fact, the DOJ, interestingly enough, has qualifications in all of this. Department and FBI are prepared to brief members on certain questions. Certain questions. Isn't that something? The department will also provide the documents that were available for review, and whatever it said after that. I can't read that fast, guys. But in any case, certain documents, certain questions. I'm not going to answer all your questions, just certain ones. But you got to understand where they're coming from. You really do. Got to understand. Dude, we can't answer all your questions. If we do that, we're going to expose the fraud of this whole investigation. You're going to find out, my God, that we set Donald Trump up, that we've been trying to take down the president of the United States, the one the people voted for. You're going to find that out. And let's not even get into the Hillary Clinton email stuff because, hey, who doesn't know that it was a fix? Democrats, how do they feel about the IG report? The further disclosure of investigative materials is inexplicable. The DOJ is now reinforcing a precedent it will have to live with, whether the Congress is in Republican or Democrat hands. I have no idea what the hell Pencil Neck is talking about. The truth is the truth. Investigative report documents, classified or not classified, facts should always be present. Truth should always be at the forefront. What is he talking about? Setting the precedent for telling the truth? No, we can't have that in Washington now, can we? No. But it is important that Schiff and his cohorts do all they can in order to, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors, release a press release at midnight. Only give this committee this information, this committee over here in the Senate this information. They don't talk to one another. And you continue to do this, you continue to delay, you play the long game in hopes that at some point it all passes. Or they regain the House of Representatives and the Senate and then impeach Donald Trump, which is what they want to do anyway. So this brings us to Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, who is spectacular. He's a smart guy. And he's talking about you know, trying to answer the question, what do you mean we can't see this? Why can't we only see certain things? He says this.
Congress has every legal and constitutional right to see these documents. Those who are seeking it actually have security clearance, the Gang of Eight. So there's no valid legal justification for withholding it, and yet the Department of Justice and the FBI have a long and distinguished record over the last year of concealing evidence, redacting records under national security terms, and then when we find out when they're unsealed, there was no such thing.
There was no such thing, and he's right. Now, this has been going on for a long time, a year and a half. And so there is absolutely no reason anyone, any rational person who has no skin in the game would ever trust the FBI at this point. I'm talking about the institution that is run by the cohorts of Barack Obama, these crooks. There's no reason to trust it, and quite honestly, the Department of Justice either, which is so disappointing with Jeff Sessions there, although he immediately recused himself, so I guess he's not paying attention to any of this stuff. But in any case, no, you're the people. You have the power in this country. Your House, Congress, has the authority, oversight over the FBI. There was no FBI when they wrote the Constitution. There was no Department of Justice. None of this was around. Congress created this stuff. Congress is the authority. Congress can say, guess what? No more FBI. They could do that. They are the authority. They are your voice, your eyes, your ears. And right now, the FBI and the Democrats do not want to play ball. I'll let you, with your brilliance, decide for yourself what the reason for that might be. Now, Alan Dershowitz, of course, you know, he's a Democrat, lifelong Democrat, but he's intellectually honest liberal. He's actually a guy who believes in freedom of speech and wants to fight for it, contrary to today's liberal fascism. But he said, you know, Congress, they shouldn't back down here. Here's what he said.
What I would recommend, however, is for Congress to immediately write to the Justice Department and say, do not destroy a single draft. We want to see what the original looked like. We want to see every change. We want to know who changed it, why it was changed, and when it was changed.
And that's what's going on right now. You had Horowitz, who's the Inspector General, and he has his report. And we know what it says, somewhat. There have been leaks. The leaks have been put out there in order to protect the integrity of the investigation, because no one trusts the FBI, Rosenstein, or people within the Department of Justice itself to be honest and truthful. They're trying to cover their backside. So Rosenstein is redacting and crossing things out, and the draft that was issued by Horowitz will change drastically, I have no doubt. Now, they've been stalling for time. There may be some legitimate reasons for some of the changes. Fine. But the original investigative report has to be made safe and available to all members of Congress, and quite honestly, the public itself. The hiding behind national security in this case is a false excuse. You need to know. And unfortunately for some, if the hype that precedes the report, like Comey and McCabe and Strzok and others, it may not be a good day for them. But, you know, the hype is only hype. We'll find out the facts, I guess, on June 14th. Here's another indication that the FBI, the Department of Justice, and others, CIA and other entities, have dragged their feet on this for the sole reason of protecting their backside. When you have to have the Speaker of the House continually come out in order to request documents, that should tell you all you need to know. And Paul Ryan made that point.
What we're asking for and what we require and we expect is the corroborating documents that back up that oral briefing. And last night they could have brought it to us today, and they chose to do it next week. That doesn't help take a Speaker of the House to have to get involved every one of these times to get the Department of Justice or any department in the executive branch to comply with congressional oversight requests.
No, it should not. It should not. What could the reason be? Let me ponder that. I've stopped pondering. I think I know what the reason is. Now, I mentioned that you have congressmen who are going to be questioning Horowitz, who is scheduled to appear on the 18th. The IG report itself will be released on the 14th. Goodlett was explaining that they're well ahead of the curve on this, and they are prepared to ask a lot of questions, and they want to see everything.
It's normal course.
Well, that's why we're going to hold the hearing. We're going to see the report. We're going to have the opportunity to interview the Inspector General, both the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which Trey Gowdy chairs. We're going to hold a joint hearing, and we will delve into not only what's in the report in a classified setting, and then for the portions that can be unclassified in a public setting, but also ask about the process and any questions we have about who saw this and any changes they may have recommended and so on.
And you need to know that. You just simply need to know that. If you're an American, you want to know that. You should demand that information, and wherever it falls, it falls. It's really tough when you can't rely on an institution like the FBI to be honest and truthful, or the Department of Justice. But Barack Obama destroyed the integrity of those offices by weaponizing them. And it is a corrupt government, and it has been so for a very, very, very long time, primarily because we've all taken our eyes off the ball. Senator Johnson kind of tied it all together, the Clinton probe and, of course, the Russian collusion deal.
This is the firmest date yet from Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz with his report examining the FBI and Justice Department's actions leading up to the 2016 election. The original mandate focused on the Clinton email case, but the title of the congressional hearing suggests the scope may be broader. This comes as the push and pull over another set of secret government records intensifies.
Just after midnight, a senior Justice Department official told reporters that DOJ would offer congressional leadership, known as the Gang of Eight, another briefing and access to FBI confidential source records Monday or Tuesday next week. Requested by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, working alongside Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy, the records are now subject to a congressional subpoena.
So Johnson basically said, and we unfortunately skipped the video there, or I missed it, but in any case, they never had any intention whatsoever to really uncover the truth on Hillary Clinton and her email scandal. The fix was in right from the get-go. I think clearly everybody can agree to that. I know our friends over on the networks who have thrown away all integrity. We no longer have a news gathering entity in America today that continues to enjoy the protection of the First Amendment. But there was never an attempt to get to the bottom of it. The fix was in right from the get-go. If anything, Hillary's scandal, to show you the arrogance here, is that Hillary having her own server, which was clearly there because of pay for play and the Clinton Foundation and the tens of millions of dollars they were receiving from foreign governments because of the likelihood of her becoming president, but even because she served as Secretary of State. Clearly, that was true. Barack Obama lied, telling you that, he didn't know anything about it, just found it out on the news. I always find it out on the news, and he was emailing her on the server. So he was well aware of it. This was an inconvenience for them to have this pop up and be uncovered at the time it did. Listen, when you have this kind of elitism, and you got to understand that's what these people are. They are elite. They have special protections. They will never, ever pay a price. Ever. Never pay a price. Whether it's illegal immigration, unchecked illegal immigration, whether there's guns, no guns, whether they break the law, and how badly they break the law. I swear they get away with murder because they are part of the ruling class elite and they all protect one another. Hillary was too big for jail, so that wasn't going to happen. At the same time, you got this scam being played by the Democrats, Obama, on Donald Trump, trying to set him up for failure, trying to prevent him from becoming president. And then, of course, after the fact that he became president, of course, they wanted to take him out, which would be called a coup anywhere else. But I guess not here in the United States. So what do I have coming up? Do I have an image here coming up with Horowitz? Yes. He's going to, here, check this out. Department of Justice watchdog sets a date for release for the IG report, and then Grassley, the chairman, in a letter has accepted an invitation the Inspector General has in order to testify about the report on June 18th. So that will be interesting, and it will be must-see TV. But really, when it gets down to it, all of this is very big news, and I know it's tough to kind of connect the dots sometimes because there's a lot of players, and you have investigations here, there, and everywhere, yet they're all related. I think the IG report stands based on what we've heard, the hype we've heard, will probably do away with any kind of obstruction charge coming from Mueller on Donald Trump. It clearly, Comey should have been fired long ago. If anything, people should stand up and applaud Donald Trump for getting rid of a corrupt FBI director, if it holds out to be true. Also, I think we'll have an opportunity to see just what the Clinton email scandal is really all about and how far the Obama administration went, and I'm sure there'll be much more to come on that in protecting this woman from what should have been a prison sentence. Now, what is the mainstream media talking about? I'm talking about, they're talking about this. No, of course not. They can't talk about this, right? They can't. This would prove everything they believe to be wrong, so they're not going to talk about that. But what they are going to talk about is Sean Hannity. And I love this because I love sarcasm. When you take a real life situation and turn it around in a way, mocking the injustice of it all. And this is Hillary Clinton, the way she destroyed her phones and her all of her devices to protect herself. To merely suggest that you do the same thing, how did the media react? Check it out.
Maybe Mueller's witnesses, I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy bitsy pieces, use bleach pit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law. How do you think that would work out for everybody who Mueller's demanding their phones of tonight? Now, I'm certain the result would not be the same as Hillary's. Mueller wants everyone's cell phones. My advice to them, not really, kidding, bad advice, would be follow Hillary's, lead. Not really, kidding, bad advice. And I said, if we're...
Oh, you know where this is going, right? This shows you, well, first, so that's what Hannity did. Let's go to some of the headlines that appeared in major network, major publications. Just check them out. Look at that, smash their cell phones. Galaxy Brain, Sean Hannity. So they thought it was a bad idea, delete all your emails and then acid wash your hard drive. Sean Hannity suggests Mueller probe witnesses should destroy their evidence. Look at this, Daily Cost, Sean Hannity breaks the law on TV. Isn't that something? You know where we're going on this, ladies and gentlemen, don't you? Of course you do. And what do all of these individuals the entities have in common? They all love Hillary Clinton. They adore Hillary Clinton. Bill and Hillary Clinton are rock stars. Liberals today are unable to see a joke. They are unable to understand irony. And even though the example that Sean Hannity presented was to mock how the mainstream media didn't cover Hillary Clinton for doing the same thing, look at how the media in this short little montage went after Hannity for even suggesting something that Hillary Clinton actually did.
Sean Hannity is now literally telling potential witnesses and subjects in the Mueller probe to destroy the evidence and hammer their phones into pieces. Now, Hannity's defenders may call that sarcasm or poetic license, but words are words. Sean Hannity lives off his words, and we all know they have a huge impact. If anyone actually does what Sean Hannity says there, they'd be committing a crime.
What Sean Hannity admitted to and actually was enticing people to do and asking them to do was to destroy evidence, which is a violation of the witness tampering statute.
No responsible person on television, no responsible so-called journalist should be advocating for people to destroy evidence in a serious federal investigation. I don't think that we'll see him prosecuted. Federal prosecutors give people a very wide berth on First Amendment-related conduct. And so unless there's something more specific to link it up, I think that this will be what we often categorize as awful but lawful conduct.
Listen, if he's out there advocating for Mueller's witnesses to obstruct justice, then maybe Mueller should speak to him and ask him where the idea come from. Have you spoken to the president about this? Did the president tell you to say this?
Knowing Mueller, I think he's not going to light that fire under someone who gets free airtime every day. But one angle would be to say, yeah, look, I'm going to a judge, and I'm going to have you cease and desist this activity on national television. Secondly, I want to talk to you and see if Trump has gotten this idea from you or vice versa.
Wouldn't it have been nice if the mainstream media had been so harsh on Hillary Clinton for having actually done the things that Sean Hannity in sarcasm suggested to his audience? It seemed pretty clear to me what Sean Hannity was doing. He said, joking, I'm just joking. Man, I don't know. Are these people, who are these people? Hannity responded as well. Watch.
Let's get this straight. The mainstream media would put me under investigation, lock me up for merely highlighting in an obviously sarcastic way the double standard in what I have been pointing out, our two-tier justice system. And these same people didn't get the fact that Hillary had actually done all of that. She wiped away, acid-washed her hard drive, deleted 33,000 emails that were subpoenaed. She had an aide smashing phones with a hammer and lied about all of it. That actually happened. They did all of this. Are you really that dumb? Please tell me it's not true. Now, you would think that one under Mueller's thumb would be able to get away with that. Okay, just to be clear, if Robert Mueller asks for your phone, don't do what Hillary did. As I said last night, it's not going to end well for you. You won't get the same treatment, which was the point of it. Now, the media, when you think they hit a new low, they just dig and dig and dig. You can't believe this. You can't make it up.
It's like watching a house on fire. CNN, MSNBC, the networks, they're on fire. And they don't even understand or realize they're on fire, and they're destroying themselves. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But point well done, Sean Hannity. I got it, seemed pretty clear to me, and that is how corrupt and how blind the so-called news media is today. Very dangerous, very, very dangerous for the United States, for all of us, to not have a news entity that's willing to be driven by the truth versus their own partisan bigotry. When we come back, the wars that we're fighting all over the world, and we are fighting all over the world, one has to ask why. Who gave anyone, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, the authorization to do it? Well, the Senate's trying to do just that. We'll talk about it and see where you fall when we come back. Stick around.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye Show.
I read an article from, I think it was Nancy Pelosi, suggesting, well, if we went back to the House, let's explore free Medicare for everyone. And of course, you know, free means something different. When the government is providing free stuff, someone has to pay for it. But what if I told you there's something absolutely free, won't cost you a dime, no obligation, and the benefits? Well, that's totally up to you, the benefits. Now for me, I grabbed hold of the information in the 16-page booklet. It was provided by Birch Gold, a company that is one of the very best best in the country in dealing in precious metals. This 16-page book was full of information I didn't know about. I don't know much about precious metals, and there's no obligation. It's absolutely free. Just go to their website and request it, and it's yours. And you probably are already aware you need to secure your investments, no matter how old you are, and one way to do that is with precious metals. And that's what brings us back to Birch Gold. They have an A+ rating, Better Business Bureau. I don't care who you talk to. If there's anybody who knows anything about dealing in precious metals, they will mention Birch Gold. And they are more than just selling precious metal. They are about educating. The personalized customer service, second to none. I mean, this is a A+ company. So go to the website, download this, request a 16-page booklet, and then give them a call. Do what you know you need to do. Here's the website. BigLeaguePolitics.com/BirchGold. BigLeaguePolitics.com/BirchGold.
I will not hesitate to deploy military force when there is no alternative. But if America fights, it must only fight to win. I will never send our finest into battle unless necessary, and I mean absolutely necessary, and will only do so if we have a plan for victory with a capital V. Our friends and enemies must know that if I draw a line in the sand, I will enforce that line in the sand, believe me. However, unlike other candidates for the presidency, war and aggression will not be my first instinct. You cannot have a foreign policy without diplomacy. A superpower understands that caution and restraint are really, truly signs of strength.
All good words, all good words. Although this is one area I would probably disagree with President Trump on. I don't think any president, regardless if it's Donald Trump, who I do trust, or Barack Obama, who I absolutely did not trust, should have that kind of power. That was never what the Constitution was meant to allow. Now, the Congress, because they're weak-kneed individuals and unwilling to do the hard choice when it comes to war, have come up with the War Authorization Acts. In fact, in 2001, contrary to what Obama did with going into Libya, just invading a country for the hell of it, we had a reason when we were attacked on 9/11. But Bush still went to Congress and got authorization to go to Afghanistan and then to Iraq. Since that time, that authorization has been there, and we've gone to an awful lot of other places. We're all over the world fighting under the guise of terrorism, and that is not who we're supposed to be. The United States Constitution was pretty clear, and the guys who put it together pretty clear about it too, that if we were going to go to war, it was going to be, as Donald Trump says, it was going to be a war in which we would annihilate the other side because we would have the very best of the best and there'd be no contest. End of story. But we were never meant to be a police state. We were never, ever, ever supposed to be a country where we were building an empire with our troops all over the world. And of course, that's what we have today. Authorization for war comes from you, which is Congress. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, that's not what's happening right now. Back in April, they started in the Senate to come up with a redoing the authorization that started back in 2001. And you have Corker, who's a big Trump fan, and was it Kane, who's the vice presidential candidate for the crook Hillary Clinton, putting this together. So how good can that be? But let's start with what the Democrats are looking to accomplish here in regards to defending America and this new legislation on giving the president the authority to wage war.
The justification that came from the White House essentially would justify this president and any other president to conduct an act of war on any country, anywhere in the world, that the president deems to be a security issue, both to the physical security of us and our allies, as well as our foreign policy, which basically means whatever he wants to do, wherever he may want to do it, whenever he may decide to do it. And that is simply unacceptable.
Well, I agree with that, actually. I really do. And of course, he was pretty soft-spoken during the Obama administration when they were dropping bombs all over the world. But there is a bit of a catch to this, and it isn't as restraining to the president as he's leading you to believe, which is kind of odd, because I think he makes a very good point. No president, unless there's an imminent threat, should have the authority to say, well, you better not do that again or I'm going to blow you up, and then use the military to follow through on that. That is not what this is supposed to be. So you have Rand Paul, who I think is probably one of the truest, most consistent individuals in the Senate, certainly up in Washington, that understands what the purpose of the Constitution in the United States really is all about. You know, and if you don't like it, change the Constitution. But I mean, he hasn't got a problem with the president defending the United States.
The War Powers Act and people over time have come to believe, and I do believe this, that the president can repel imminent invasion. So if there is something where, you know, we believe that someone is in the process of launching a weapon against us, yes, the president can act imminently.
To that, certainly, you know, if you got people on the border coming across, or you have someone who's going to fire a nuclear weapon at the coastal regions of the United States, I think most people are on board with that. Absolutely. But it's this legislation itself and the people that are involved in this. For instance, the VP, the man who could have been VP, he's an angry man too, is leading the effort to limit. And he says, for too long, Congress has given presidents a blank check to wage war. We've let the 9/11 and Iraq war authorizations get stretched to justify wars against multiple terrorist groups in over a dozen countries, from Niger to the Philippines. He's right, all right? I don't know if you're going to like me saying this, but he's right. Of course, he's only saying that now because it's Donald Trump. He didn't have a problem when Barack Obama was doing that. Rand Paul is fighting this bill for a very, very important reason. You know, we do have a military complex. It is worth trillions of dollars, I have no doubt. And we protect it, or they protect it, by waging war for all kinds of different reasons. So we always have a good reason. This is always a national security issue. This is always, we can't restrict the flow of oil, whatever it might be. We always have a good reason, but we have young men and women who go off and they don't come back, and if they do come back, they're missing parts. And in the end, it hasn't been just 9/11. The last time we actually declared war on anybody was World War II. Now, what's wrong with doing that? You got a problem with Syria? You got a problem with Syria? I got a problem with Syria. You want to end their existence? You want to do away with whatever you want to do away with? Then go bring it to Congress. Make your point. Have Congress say, all right, let's declare war. Let's end this. That's how you're supposed to do it. Rand Paul, as he always does, takes on the neocons over this new legislation.
In 2001, we voted to go after those who attacked us on 9/11 or those who harbored or aided and abetted them. The war is way beyond that. We accomplished that many, many years ago. We're now involved in civil wars in, 3 different continents, on Africa, the Middle East, and in Asia, and none of it's been authorized by Congress. So Senators Corker and Kaine came up with an authorization. They said we should do our job and Congress should authorize it. The problem with their authorization is it actually transfers the ability or the power from Congress to the president, and the only way we could stop war if it passes is to have a 2/3 vote by Congress to stop the president. So I think their authorization is a mistake. It's well intended, but it's a real mistake because it transfers authority from Congress to the president. But I think we've been at war for too long. We're at war in too many places, and I'm for ending the Afghan war, and I think the debate over the constitutionality of this new proposal will give us a forum to talk about whether or not we should still be at war in Africa, in Afghanistan, and all of these different places.
Yeah, and all well and good, all well and good. I think that discussion has to be made, but you also have to understand the politics of this. Now, I read Tim Kaine there, and you read it, and his point is valid. It really is. And we have Corker coming up, who is not a big fan, I bet you've heard this, of Donald Trump. And in fact, let's take a flashback. How big a fan is Corker of Donald Trump?
Okay, here's what I'm getting at. If he is the nominee, will you support him?
Again, if he's the nominee, you mean he's won the primary?
If he runs for re-election, are you going to support him?
Well, I want to know who else is in the field. Do you know who you're going to support on the Democratic side?
What makes you think that I will support someone on the Democratic side, Senator?
I don't know.
Senator, the point is you are a Republican. This is your president. This is the leader of your party, the leader of our country.
I have no idea. Yeah, I know, but look, we're going to burn time. We could be talking about other things. I have no idea who's going to run for president in 2020, and I'm not about to say who I would support for that. So we have no idea who's going to run. Whether the president runs again or not, I think is very questionable, candidly.
Yeah, well, he's not a big fan of Donald Trump. So you got Tim Kaine and Corker, two people who don't like Donald Trump. And they're speaking wise words. They really are. They're speaking some wise words. But the goal here is to undermine Donald Trump's ability to do what is needed with an authorization in the short term, and in the long term, give the next president some pretty powerful authority. In this law, this legislation, once you have gotten the authorization to go to war, for instance, the president needs to update you occasionally, especially if he is going to expand it, but it's going to take 2/3 of Congress to vote against the president to end the war. This is the problem. This is the problem. Congress, which are, for the most part, a bunch of spineless individuals who are not ever going to make a decision that they think might impact their ability to be reelected, won't make the hard choice. So they're going to spin it off on the president here. Rand Paul, again, truthful man, I think. How did he feel about Donald Trump? I mean, would he vote for him in 2020? Would he?
At this point, I can't see myself supporting anybody but President Trump, because I think he's given us the most conservative cabinet we've seen since Reagan, maybe more conservative than Reagan. We've repealed regulations for the first time in 20 years. He gave us a great Supreme Court justice, and I'm hoping he gives us a couple more if we have retirements. So I see the glass as half full.
Yeah, I do too. In fact, more than half full. Isn't that interesting? So Rand Paul isn't against Donald Trump. He may be against this legislation. And I only bring this forward to you to consider that Rand Paul's a man of integrity. He is a constitutionalist. He's a rule of law kind of guy. And I think he needs to be listened to, and in a big, big way. And oftentimes when he disagrees, in this case, Donald Trump on an issue maybe, on what is actually something that should involve authorization of war or an act of war on the part of, listen, you're going to bomb another country, it's an act of war. It shouldn't be something that is just decided by one man because he said something last week and now he needs to follow through on. That's my humble opinion. Now, Rand also breaks down what is an unconstitutional global war that has been expanded big time under Barack Obama, of all people.
After the attacks on 9/11, President Bush did his constitutional duty. He asked Congress to authorize war against the people who attacked us on 9/11 or anyone who harbored them or aided and abetted those who had attacked us. If you read the authorization, it's actually very specific. Bush originally asked for more expansive language, but Congress insisted on narrowing the mandate to use force against only those who either attacked us or planned the attack or harbored the attackers. Force is authorized against unnamed entities, but they are narrowly defined by their relationship to the attacks of 9/11. Authorization was not given for a global war on terror or against radical Islamists or separatists or insurgents in various civil wars. Authorization was not given for associated forces. Authorization was specific and solely to be directed against the people who attacked us on 9/11 and anyone who helped or harbored them, period. It is safe to say that no one in Congress believed that we were voting or that they were voting for a worldwide war on terrorism in 20-some-odd countries that would go on for decades. So intellectually honest observers have for years now complained that the 9/11 authorization of war does not cover the wars being fought throughout dozens of countries in Africa, the Middle East, and the South Pacific. So basically, the expansion of the war on terrorism really has occurred without the required constitutional authorization.
Yeah, but Obama wasn't a constitutional guy anyway. But let's face it, it continues, and it has to stop. It really does have to stop, or change the Constitution. You can't be for the rule of law on immigration, for instance, and not be for the rule of law when it comes to the authority of the Congress. The Congress has the authority, and only the Congress has the authority to declare war on any country. And if you're going to blow a country up, and you're going to kill people in that country, no different than if Canada really did attack us and blow up a city, or members of your community, you would consider that an act of war. And that is where Congress and the House of the People plays its role. And they haven't done so since World War II for a lot of, I think, very selfish and cowardly reasons. In any case, keep an eye out on what the Senate decides to do and where they go forward from here, and understand who the players are and what the ultimate underlying goal is to undercut Trump short-term, long-term, give the next guy overwhelming power. Neither should be acceptable. We come back, we're going to update you on this bunker. We told you about it last week, this bunker that, what seems to be a bunker, it's a tunnel, and it looks like it was used by a bunch of homeless people. So say the police. Other group that discovered it say, this is an area where children were used for sex slaves. Who's telling the truth? We'll be back. Truth Finder.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye Show.
It would be so cool if you could just go to Truth Finder and get the truth on everything. Unfortunately, they're good. Oh, they are very, very good. And when it comes to background checks on anybody and the searching of hundreds of millions of public records, nobody does a better job than Truth Finder. Unfortunately, you can't look into the souls of people yet, but maybe they're working on it. But listen, if you have questions about an individual maybe you work with or somebody in the neighborhood, maybe you're involved in a divorce, why hire a pricey private detective, right? Maybe you have family you'd like to rediscover, you don't know where they went, you've lost track of them, or high school friends. It can be used for so many different reasons. From that gut feeling you get, I don't know about this person and he's dating my daughter, or yourself. Do a search with Truth Finder. Unbelievable. And when you become a member, you have unlimited searches. So you can search anytime you want, as often as you like. And I'm going to tell you something, you're going to be blown away. If you search yourself, the amount of information that Truth Finder will come up with on you will open your eyes. So all you have to do is give it a shot. It's very easy. You go to the website, bigleaguepolitics.com/truthfinder. That's bigleaguepolitics.com/truthfinder.
And then just to the right in these trees, just on the left side of this fence, that's where this thing is.
This is a prison cell. Only kids are being held down here.
And they brought me into the camp and showed me the underground bunker. It was basically a giant plastic container with a hole only small enough for a child to crawl in and out of. And it was angled in such a way, and it was buried underground, that a small child that was in there could not have gotten out on their own.
They're having them slide up.
There's a child's vanity and a hospital toilet. That looks like a child's car seat.
Strollers and children's toys and clothing and food packets and stuff like that. So clearly children had been kept here.
All right, so with these straps.
But one thing that was really disturbing was there were arm restraints, wrist restraints on two trees angled like this to where friends of mine that are investigators that do a lot of stuff on the border say, Craig, that's a rape tree. That looks exactly like wrist restraints for a rape tree. It doesn't look like anything else. This is clearly a disturbing and wrongful thing going on. It's inhumane. It's shocking and upsetting to any decent adult.
Stories that people are saying, no, that's not what it is at all. And the bunker that is there is pretty scary stuff. The claim is that there's possibly a homeless camp, which is, I think, the going theme from the authorities. But you have these individuals who have pretty much done this for quite some time. There are veterans groups that have sought out homeless veterans to help them in many ways, and oftentimes they are a product of human trafficking, and this, they say, is something completely different. So what are the police saying about this? Do they, have they looked at the evidence? And whatever evidence happens to be there, you have one group of people who feel that this is indeed something that is evil. What do the police say?
Since the bunker was found, the Tucson Police Department have sent officers and investigative teams to search for evidence of human trafficking of children. Police say they have found no evidence of human trafficking at that site, but a homeless advocacy group still insists they have found evidence that people were trafficked or smuggled through this location. The group says they will stay at the site until authorities recognize the underground bunker as part of human trafficking activity and investigate it further.
So you have I would assume authorities would want to investigate any possibility that children were being abused or sexually assaulted at this site. ICE even got involved in this. It isn't just the local sheriff's department, and they're claiming that there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever of any trafficking. So there's that. Special agents from ICE Homeland Security investigation basically wrapped it up and said nothing to see here. So you have this, and yet you have the images that you saw, and you have trafficking experts who continue to disagree with the authorities.
The solar lights is what gave it away. If we wouldn't have been walking on the right trail, we wouldn't have seen it. We would have went right past it. It's right over here. We're going to cut down.
Lewis Arthur is from the Veterans on Patrol group. They search washes and bridges looking for homeless vets they can help get off the streets. As part of their search on Tuesday night, they stumbled upon this abandoned camp.
And we're right there, and our city's right there, and our children are right there. And it's not my problem if it's in our backyard. Well, now it's in our backyard.
This afternoon, we toured the area with Craig Sawyer and Jerry Payton, a former Navy SEAL and former Tucson firefighter, to get their thoughts on what this camp may be.
I didn't expect to see something this heinous and inhumane this close. Well, I served in the military to keep things like this from happening here. That's why I risked my security to go and so that you guys, so nobody back here would have to put up with this. This position here leads me to believe this would be a guard.
To these experts in the field of trafficking, this didn't look like your typical homeless camp. We found restraints on trees.
I mean, what is this?
Hair dye, kids' items.
This is a crib.
Pornographic material, and even an outdoor bathroom.
A toilet where it looks like they had a bucket. So I've heard of, you know, rooms full of kids and houses and basements and things like that. But nothing underground like this, like an underground cell. That's pretty creepy.
Sawyer says it looked like the last time someone was at this camp about 10 days ago. He believes they could come back.
In fact, there's another one nearby that they found that they're already digging with fresh tools and fresh dirt.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer. The update to this story is that they found something that is a bit disturbing. They found a skull, and this skull was, there it is believed to be a child's skull found at the site. So this story continues to expand. In fact, they found other pieces of bone, and it appears whoever the individual was chopped up, according to those who believe that this is something more than just a homeless site. I don't have the answer for you. I just present the information to you. Again, this site is owned by a Rothschild, and it's a pretty well-known name. I think the mayor's name is also that. They're a wealthy family. Could that be a reason? Or is it simply, as it appears to be, to some, the police anyway, just a homeless encampment, and all of this is just circumstantial evidence? And you know, quite honestly, I pray to God that that's the case. I really do. I would hate to believe that anything like this could be happening, but I know it does. It happens all over this country, and that kind of evil needs to be wiped out. It really does. When we come back, there's another kind of evil. You hate to call that of a 13-year-old boy who did something because he's 13 years old, but it's part of the national narrative. It's been fed down our throats almost continually since Barack Obama, and it tends to influence people to do things that are outrageous and have consequences. You'll know what I mean when we come back. Stick around.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye. It's the Bill LuMaye Show.
And it's Friday, and it's our final segment. This is where I do the happy dance. But this is serious. It really is. And it's part of what's happened to our country. And it's sad. It's so incredibly sad. And I wish there was a way to change it and turn it back. Here's what I mean. You had a story, and it was in Houston, Texas, about a 13-year-old African-American boy, and it got widespread media coverage. Here it is.
But what, ladies and gentlemen, is unmistakable in all of this?
Eric Alona, the victim's family believes the young boy was targeted for a number of reasons. Now, this is the very intersection where Xavion Parker gets off of the school bus and heads home each and every day. He says he first saw a red truck with flames on the side on Friday. Yesterday, he was approached by the same vehicle, and things went downhill from there. It's a scary ordeal that sounds straight out of the movies. Houston Police Department responded to reports of a missing child Monday after Xavion Parker never showed up after school. He was found safe a couple of hours later, but what he says happened to him has his family shaken. Parker says as he was walking home from the bus stop, a red truck pulled up and several young men grabbed him and pulled him inside, all while the adult driver cheered them on. From there, he says he was taken to an abandoned property full of guns and torture items. He was assaulted and punched, and his phone, shoes, and jacket were stolen. When the group was in the other room, he managed to make it out and take off as fast as he could. That's when driver Carmesia Carmouche saw him running down Loxley near Wayside and stopped to ask if he was okay. She called police and eventually got him home safe, but Michelle Lee says she won't feel peace until the suspects are caught. HPD says the driving suspect is described as a white man with a heavy build, straight orange hair, and tattoos on his arm, one of which is a racial slur.
The reason why they got him because they said he was black. You deserve to die. Exactly his words. And he said the dad had like a white muscle shirt on, and you could see, he said it was right here, big as day. I hate black people.
Wow. It's hard to believe anything like that could ever happen in this country. I know there are bad, bad people out there. I'm sorry, what? There's an update to the story? Well, good. What is it?
Eric, police told me this afternoon that abduction and alleged assault never happened, and they were adamant about the fact that there are no white supremacists kidnapping children in Northeast Houston. The story was horrible. A young teenage boy claiming he stepped off of a school bus and was abducted. An adult and 4 young men grabbed him, robbed him, beat him, all because of his race. This was his mother in the hours after Xavion Parker said he managed to escape the gun-wielding kidnappers.
The reason why they got him because they said he was black. You deserve to die. Exactly his words. And he said the dad had like a white muscle shirt on, and you could see, he said it was right here, big as day. I hate black people.
But after a thorough investigation, HPD now says the events as described did not occur. That the property Parker described as having been taken to had nothing to do with any crime. Investigators have met with both the child's mother and community activists. They told them their findings. When we reached the mother on the phone today, she did not want to comment.
No, I bet not. It's got to be a tough spot for the mom. Here's the deal. Where would a kid come up with an idea like that? It's been the narrative in this country since President Obama took office, and he began his unrelenting dialogue about race and the hate that really doesn't exist to the extent that he says it does. His interaction with police, condemning police and demonizing police, and of course the echo chamber that is the media. Unfortunately, this young kid, for whatever reason, picked up on it, and you had community activists engaging in that community and getting pretty fired up, rightfully so, because they believed him. But you know what? More and more often, these stories are hoaxes. And I often wonder, why you have to fake something that is happening everywhere. This is the kind of thing football players kneel for, right? Have a great weekend. Really, seriously. Free your mind, put a smile on your face, and then come back here Monday at 3. We'll see you then.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the LuMaye. It's the LuMaye. It's the LuMaye Show.